Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Williamsburg City Council meeting of May 14th. Ms. McKay, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Williams. Here. Ms. Ramsey.
Here.
Mayor Pons.
Here.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Here.
Ms. Kernshire. Here.
Okay. Welcome, everyone, and special welcome to our Small Business Person of the Year. Every year, the Economic Development Authority honors a small business in Williamsburg, and there's a criteria. Obviously, you have to be located in the city, but you have to demonstrate a give back to the community of sorts. And today we have Streamline Roofing with us, who's been in business since 2014. It was opened by Jeff Skinner and Dave Long, working together in the construction industry. They opened their own business and started Streamline Roofing. And they've gone on to do some amazing things for the community. Every year, Streamline Roofing gives back to the community by putting new roofs on buildings, whether it's a home of somebody who has some special needs or a nonprofit that needs a new roof, and helps them carry on the work that they do. And so today we have a few of those folks here today, and so we're really excited about that. But before we bring them up, I'd like to share a video.
We feel that customers value, outside of the quality of work of the roof, is communication. We were once told that we are the Chick-fil-A of roofing companies, and that gave us a lot of pride, because we all know that Chick-fil-A does customer service best.
We're able to build trust here at Streamline through transparency and expertise. From start to finish, our guys are on the job in a professional manner. Whenever anybody answers the phone in our office, it's in a professional manner. Communication is paramount. We try to keep everybody abreast of what's going on.
We have to set clear expectations for customers up front, answer questions along the way, and at the end of the day, it's about a quality roof, but it's also about how the experience that the customers felt along the way.
It's about roofing and putting on a good product on people's homes, but it's also about people and connections we make through that. Customers are greeted with a professional answer when they call us in our office, and we maintain that professionalism through the whole process. We take every opportunity we can to give back to the community.
One of the biggest ways that we've impacted the community is through our Raise the Roof initiative, where we give a free roof away to a community member or an organization. Some of the past recipients include 4-H, Letitia's House, and Coach Andy Lynn, a Lafayette football coach. It's a way that not only do we help someone that is deserving of a roof, which is just a huge undertaking, but we can get the community together. So this year we celebrated a little differently. We are now William & Mary's roofing partner for Tribe Athletics. And so we brought it to the baseball field, and we had Raise the Roof at the ballpark.
Most of us are from here. We grew up here. This is there, we know. A lot of us are raising families here currently. So we're all engaged in this community on a regular basis. And it feels good to serve the community and also to try to give back to the community.
What's next for Streamline Roofing in 2026 and beyond is not necessarily being the biggest, but continuing to be a company that the community trusts and a place that our employees are proud to work.
Being the recipient of the 2026 Business Appreciation Award means we're respected alongside a group of companies that are well respected in our community. We're honored to have been given the award, and it's good to know that what we do is felt beyond just the job site.
So congratulations. Today we have Hans Spicer and Gary. Jeff and Dave, I'm sure, are on the roof somewhere. Okay, moving to item D, council minutes. You have in the packet minutes from the April 6th work session and April 9th city council business meeting. Are there any corrections or changes? Somebody like to make a motion to approve?
I move that council minutes be approved.
Second.
Okay, Ms. McKay?
Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey.
Aye.
Mayor Pons.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Aye.
Ms. Kernshire.
Aye.
Okay, we're going to begin the public hearings. We did have what was item D previously posted on the, for public hearings, which was the consideration and execution of a purchase order for architectural and engineering design services for the Public Works Yard. We have removed that from the public hearing, and so we're going to move on, and the agenda that you all picked up reflective of that. So first is the consideration and action regarding PCR number 26-002, a zoning text amendment to amend Chapter 21 zoning and Article 3 district regulations, Division 6.4 Limited Business Corridor District. Welcome, Mr. Wysong.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good afternoon to everybody. This afternoon, I'll be presenting PCR 26.2 and 26.3. This is a proposal for a zoning text amendment and a special use permit. And this was submitted by Operation Escape LLC. This is a business that's located in the historic triangle that operates escape room facilities. And they would like to bring that business into the city of Williamsburg and locate it at the property that's addressed 150 Strawberry Plains Road. Currently, this property is zoned for the LB4 district. And currently, the proposed business use, which is considered a family entertainment center, is not permitted by right or as a special use permit within the LB4 district. So the applicant has requested that the city amend their zoning ordinance to allow for a family entertainment center for the escape room as a specially permitted use. And planning staff, in reviewing this proposal, looked at the intent of the LB4 zoning district, which allows for the location of office and limited commercial uses along major roadways, and they can be worked as a transitional land use between neighborhoods and higher impact uses. And so staff finds that a proposed escape room could be in alignment with the intent of this district, but we do think a special use is the appropriate place for it to be located in the ordinance so that we could evaluate the proposal to make sure it does line up with the intent. The other factor, one of the other factors that planning staff looked at is the actual location of the LB4 district and the extent of it within the city. As you can see here, there's less than 50 acres of LB4 district within the city, which is less than 1% of the total area. So we find that this will not be a use that would proliferate or would overwhelm the city and could be appropriately cited. So in terms of the zoning text amendment itself, we do find that this is an appropriate proposal for the city. We also evaluated the special use permit, which was submitted for this. This is for a escape room facility that will consist of 3 escape rooms within the first floor of the office building on Strawberry Plains Road. And I will turn the slide here so you can see a picture of the structure itself. This is anticipated to be a low-intensity use. It's operated by appointment only, so unlike another retail use, there will be total control by the business owner of who comes to the property and when. That's important because it lowers the impact to the property. When looking at the actual special use permit itself, planning staff reviewed this against the 6 criteria that we have within the zoning ordinance. And to give you the high-level review of this, we found that it did meet all 6 of the criteria. For the first 3, the proposal is in harmony with the comprehensive plan. The property is designated for mixed use. This is a limited commercial use that fits in well with that designation. As I've stated, it meets the intent of the LB4 district. And in terms of being in harmony with the character of the adjacent properties, we do find that it won't have an impact because the construction work is going to be on the inside of the building, and there's not going to be a change to the landscaping, the parking, or the site layout itself. We also looked at the public services, the preservation of significant features, and of course the site layout itself. This review went through the typical review process. All the department heads or department head staffs that review these projects gave comments. One comment was we wanted the applicant to provide a traffic memo that evaluated what would the impact of this use be in terms of trip generation compared to what's allowed there now. And the applicant said, absolutely, not a problem. The traffic memo that was submitted showed that there's not going to be an impact beyond what's allowed now with the office use. So that was good to know. There are no significant features on site. It's a very nice looking office building, but there's no historic sites or ecological features that will be impacted. And as I stated, the site layout itself is going to stay the same and be located on the inside of the structure. So because it meets all 6 of these criteria, planning staff does recommend approval of the zoning text amendment and the special use permit application. And at their April meeting, the Planning Commission also recommended approval of both these items. The one vote that was against the proposal had some concern about located the family entertainment use in a location that he didn't see as having that established identity yet. So that was the one concern that was raised. But the applicant is here tonight or this afternoon, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have as well.
Okay, thank you. And before I open the public hearing, does any council member have any questions for staff?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
With that, I'll open the public hearing, and if anybody would like to come speak to this matter, please come forward. Welcome, Debbie.
Hey, how are you? Welcome. Mayor Pons, Vice Mayor Dent, and to all of the city council members, thank you for your meeting today. I wanted to comment on the application from Bill Thompson to do business within the city limits of Williamsburg as Operation Escape, which is considered a family entertainment venue. It is on your agenda today, item number 5, public hearings, A and B. I first met Bill in 2010 when he worked at Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum. That was 16 years ago. Bill was a professional member of that team and has exceptional customer service skills. Over the years, I have watched him grow with the business as Ripley's to be promoted to assistant general manager and then the general manager in 2013. He remained general manager there until 2021. However, Bill is pretty enterprising, and in 2019, he had the vision of Operation Escape. While still employed with Ripley's, he began working on Operation Escape. That business, as it was developed and came to fruition, was so successful that he left Ripley's. In 2022, he opened a second location because the first business had been so successful. Now, what happened in between then was COVID. I remember having a moment with him and said, Bill, are you crazy? You know, this is a hard time. We're all going through hard times. If any of you have been to any of his locations, you'll know that they're clean, well-kept, organized, and that all of the employees and staff there are friendly, knowledgeable about our area, and support other tourism destinations as well. I would think the city of Williamsburg would welcome a professional business partner of his quality to your portfolio. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schaefer. I also have a speaker's card for this, Scott Hart. Welcome, Scott.
Mayor Pons, Vice Mayor Dent, council members. So I'm the person who brought Bill on at Ripley's in Williamsburg to take over for me. He was the one person I entrusted with a business that I had poured my heart and soul into for years, and he did an amazing job there. His attractions, I've run 14 different escape rooms over my career. His are top shelf. They're fantastic. I've taken group members from 2nd Street in Williamsburg and in Newport News out to his attractions. We've done those. They're, as he said, very low impact, and he's an exceptional person, and he's an exceptional business owner. I think he would do very well in the city of Williamsburg.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak to this matter? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing on this and turn to council for additional comments, and I'll just start off to say, based on the experience factor of the proprietor and the recommendation of staff, I'm perfectly comfortable with this.
Yeah, actually, I rode by the location this morning and your other two locations as well. Obviously, looking at the concern that was brought up in a planning commission meeting, and with both of your current locations being located in business parks as well, it seemed to fit. And I'm assuming your hours of operation, but not only because it's all by reservation, but it's typically going to be after the other businesses' hours, so it's not causing an impact on them. And two, just riding around, you see a lot of empty office space, and we all know that people remote work now more than they did prior to COVID. So it's, to me, it's a good use of that building, helps the landlord with occupying some space in that business park. And I don't see any issues at all, so I'm ready to support it.
Yes, so kind of taking apart the two questions on the table, I first do agree that allowing the Family Entertainment Center with a special use permit as part of a zoning text change does make sense. This isn't opening up every family use, automatically. It would have to come back and, come before planning and council for a special use permit. So I think that in a meta sense is a smart way and a smart path forward. And then the particular question about this particular business, it seems, as the vice mayor and mayor said, to be a good use, and from the planning department's recommendation as well, for this space. And I will confess, my family's never done an escape room, so I learned a little bit about them by reading through the materials. So I wish you great success if we move forward, and hopefully I'll do it. All right, thank you.
Yes, I don't have any questions, and I agree with my colleagues that I think it's a good use, and it's nice to be able to have a space that's previously been emptied, be occupied, and the more opportunities we can offer for families that are indoors, I think is very welcome. We often hear that the weather in Williamsburg, particularly in the summer, with the heat and the humidity, families are often looking for an alternative. So I'm all in favor of this.
Yes, well, I don't have too much more to add, but just want to echo my colleagues, and I feel comfortable moving forward as well.
Okay, so we have two items, and we'll do these separate, and I'll call a separate public hearing for the second one, just for process. So is there a motion to approve the zoning text amendment?
So I move that City Council approve PCR 26-002.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. McKay?
Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey.
Aye.
Mayor Pons.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Aye.
Ms. Kerntier.
Aye.
Okay. Related to this is consideration and action regarding PCR number 26-003, Operation Escape LLC has applied for a special use permit to operate an escape room at 150 Strawberry Plains Road. Mr. Wysong, anything you wanted to add? No? Any further comments? Would anybody in the audience like to reiterate anything, speak to this? No? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the application?
So I move that City Council approve PCR 26-003.
Second?
Thank you. Ms. McKay?
Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey.
Aye.
Mayor Pons.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Aye.
Ms. Kerntier.
Aye.
Good. Congratulations and welcome. Next item is, item C is consideration and action regarding PCR number 26-005, a zoning text amendment to revoke Chapter 21 zoning, Article 8 of the Chesapeake Bay Preservation, and reinstate Article to comply with the new regulatory requirements by the Virginia Administrative Code Title 9.
Yes, all of that. Good afternoon, Mayor Pons and members of City Council. The City of Williamsburg is requesting an amendment to the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Area District. This is Article 9 of the zoning ordinance. The amendment would add new regulatory requirements provided by the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality as it relates to climate change resilience and adaptation measures in our environmentally sensitive areas. Specifically, this amendment addresses shoreline erosion control, living shorelines, water quality impact analysis or resource protection areas and adds a definition section to the article that's not currently there. The new language outlined in Ordinance 2602 has been approved by the City Attorney and the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality, Office of Watersheds and Local Government Assistance. The Planning Commission at its April meeting recommended approval of the ordinance, and today staff is requesting approval of the same by City Council. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Good, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Griffin?
As reading through that, is there anything that's really impacting, that's a big change for the city?
Yeah, so the state now is looking at climate change more than in the past, and right now we don't have any language in our ordinance that looks at climate change, and so this will impact us if somebody wants to do any development in a resource protection area or a resource management area. Those areas are limited, but in those cases, yes, there would be some impact.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions, but I just want to say adding a definition section is always a good idea, very helpful.
Very good idea.
Like, I actually know what we're talking about now. So I'm sure this was not an easy task. It looks like, reading through it, it's a lot of detail and some change and some really thinking about definitions and what we're doing. So I appreciate the work that went into this. And again, just thank you for bringing this.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions and appreciate all the work that's been done on it.
Thank you.
I also don't have any questions, but just want to echo the sentiments that were already said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Griffin. With that, I'll open a public hearing if anybody would like to come forward on this. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and come back to council for action or just further discussion. Seeing none, is there a motion?
Yeah, I'm prepared to move that City Council approve PCR 26-005 and adopt Ordinance 26-02 to amend Article 7 of the zoning ordinance.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. McKay?
Article 8.
Ms. Williams?
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mayor Pons?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent?
Aye.
Ms. Gerntier?
Aye.
Okay, item D is consideration and approval of Resolution 26-05 for a long-term special events license with VIII Williamsburg. Ms. Shelton.
So VIII Williamsburg has requested to put a selfie station in Library Square Park on the brick for the rest of the year in celebration of the 250th anniversary. A picture of what they're proposing is attached to your agenda, as well as a map showing where it's located. The staff does not have the ability to approve the use of the city's public rights-of-ways and parks that for more than 15 days in a month. That is reserved to City Council. In your packet is the guidelines in the city code by which you approve that. The staff recommends that City Council approve the special event license pursuant to the resolution that's attached. It's a fairly passive use. They're required to maintain the selfie station while it's on the city's property. It has to be removed by the 31st of December of this year.
Any questions for staff?
The only question I had is, after, assuming it's approved, when do you anticipate that they would install it?
So they're entitled to install it after you approve it, but we still need to get the insurance piece worked out, and that usually takes about a week.
Questions? Okay. With that, I'll open the public hearing, and if anybody would like to come forward and speak to this matter. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and just say, I think this is a great opportunity to help us celebrate the 250th celebration that's upon us, and applaud VIII Williamsburg for being creative and bringing something like this to the downtown area.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't know that these were called selfie stations. So when it said a selfie station, I was like, what exactly does that mean? And now I know. So yeah, it seems like a good way to bring people in and a nice place for people to, be a part of the history that we're having here this year.
Totally concur. Have no questions or other comments.
Yes, I also agree, especially with all of the tourists coming in the next couple months. I think it'll be a wonderful addition.
So I move that City Council adopt proposed resolution 26-05.
Second.
Okay?
Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey.
Aye.
Mayor Pons.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Aye.
Ms. Kerntier.
Aye.
Okay. Leading now to the last public hearing is consideration and approval of Resolution 26-07, amending the city budget for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026, to add certain revenues and expenses to make appropriations and reappropriations of those funds. Ms. DeWitt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. There's actually 7 items to review here, and one of them we're going to ask you to wait until next month. So I'll start with the first one. Is in February of this year, William & Mary signed a memorandum with us, and also and that provided $500,000 towards the purchase of our new fire truck apparatus, recognizing the use and the benefit of the fire department to William & Mary and all of our citizens. So those funds were received in February, and this budget amendment recognizes them and places them in line to go towards the debt service for that fire truck. Secondly, we maintain a reserve fund for capital improvement projects for the school system, and this is made up of funds that were unspent during future or past fiscal years, and we hold those funds in reserve for needs just like the one I'm about to tell you about. So this fiscal year, the schools have requested $873,400 for the refurbishment of the Berkeley School gym and the replacement of windows at Matthew Whaley Elementary School. So these are unspent funds, as I said, and this requests that they be transferred from the general fund into the CIP for that use this fiscal year. The third item is recognizing that the $500,000 from William & Mary is defraying our cost for that fire truck, for the cost of the fire truck this fiscal year. That releases those sales tax funds for another use, and staff is recommending that be used in this fiscal year for the replacement of the HVAC units at the Quarter Path Recreation Center, which we've been discussing the need for as part of your budget deliberations. Number 4 is transferring and appropriating funds that we received from a bond issuance when the police station construction work was first discussed. The city issued bonds and received that revenue, and this is to appropriate $4.385 million of that revenue for the next project that those bonds were identified to be used for, and that is the relocation and construction of the public works yard. So this will move the bond funds to replace sales tax funds in the CIP for that use. The 6th item is actually something we're going to ask you to, staff recommends we wait until next month to discuss this because of discussions you've had about priorities in the CIP. So as this was published in the agenda, it requested to transfer $500,000 from carry forward projects in the CIP to use to do repairs and painting of the Prince George parking garage this fiscal year. We've had discussions over the past few meetings about perhaps those funds going to the African American Heritage Trail project instead of the parking garage. So staff is recommending, having heard that discussion, recommending that be the case, but we will need to re-advertise that and ask you to act on that in June. Lastly, we identified carry forward funds of $450,000 in the CIP and are recommending those be transferred into a new project line in this fiscal year for Duke of Gloucester Street bollards for safety on Duke of Gloucester Street. I'm happy to answer any questions. I know that was a lot.
Okay, so just to be clear, the Prince George parking, item 6, the $500,000, that's not going to be part of this conversation.
That's staff's recommendation, yes.
And I think that's appropriate, so. Any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Wood, just for a little clarification on the general fund for the school maintenance, that's money that we've set aside, and this is not uncommon for us to utilize that money to make CIP projects, identify CIP projects, and help the school system complete them.
That's exactly correct, yes.
Thank you.
No questions.
No questions.
I have one question with the HVAC system. We received a grant for that, is that correct?
I'm sorry?
For the HVAC replacement at Quarter Path, we received a grant.
We received a grant for a generator at the.
Yes, yes, I'm mixing the
it's
two.
built into that, exactly, yes.
Yes.
As you know, Quarter Path Rec Center is our emergency shelter, so that generator needed to be replaced. And yes, the fire department identified a grant for that.
Thank you for the clarification.
Just going back to follow up on Vice Mayor Dent's question, the funds that we use for the school's capital improvements are funds that we set aside, and usually from the rebates that we get from the school at the end of their operating year. So these are money that we paid to the schools, and they've given it back, and we've held them contractually for this type of purpose.
Exactly, yes.
All right. With that, I'll open the public hearing. If there's no other comments, open the public hearing. If anybody would like to come forward. Seeing none, I'll come back to council for conversation or action. I'm okay with all of these myself.
Yes.
So I move that City Council adopt Resolution 26-07.
And if that motion could say excluding the $500,000 transfer for the Prince George parking garage.
I move that City Council adopt Resolution 26-07, excluding a transfer of $500,000 from the carry forward lines for repairs to Prince George parking garage.
Second?
Okay?
Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey.
Aye.
Mayor Pons.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Aye.
Ms. Gerntier.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Leads us now to reports, and first we have our monthly financial statement. Ms. Dameron, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of City Council. I want to, oops, wrong way. Sorry about that. I want to start our report this month with our sales tax. And you can see on the chart there that as of the end of May, we're showing a 3.1% increase over fiscal year 25. You also note that we're at 68% of budget compared to 64% last year. Looking back in prior years, you'll see that percent was a bit higher. And primarily, I think that is because we used a more conservative approach to estimating revenues in the past, and we were asked to be a bit more aggressive. So looking at that 64% that we were at last year, we finished the year just slightly under budget that year, about $51,000, not too bad, on $6 million. And I would say at the 66% that we're seeing right now, I would estimate that we will meet budget, maybe come in a little bit over budget. Looking at our room and meals tax, our meals tax right now is showing a 20.2% over last year. We've mentioned this in the past, that there's some delinquent collections in with those numbers, and in addition to that, we have our March and April represent the new rate for room tax of 7%. So that April, just for the month of April, rate adjusted increase is a 5.7% decrease. However, the year-to-date rate adjusted increase is 13.5%. That still includes some of the delinquent collections. We've pulled out the delinquent collections as best we can estimate, and also rate adjusted, and that rate is estimated to be about 3% increase. Our meals tax is showing a 7% increase over FY25. Again, we have March and April increase of 6.5% from 5% rate. So the April adjusted increase is 1%, and the year-to-date rate adjusted increase is just a little over 1%.
If I can just interrupt you. So we're seeing greater receipts come in with both room and meals tax, and you have the percentages there, but you've also calculated out what the meals tax and room tax increase has contributed to these numbers.
Correct.
And we're
To
still
give us
seeing-
an equalized comparison.
And we're still, with that, we're still seeing growth in sales. Okay,
On a year, in room, in the case of year-to-date. Okay?
thank you.
Then with our tourism local taxes and the $2 lodging tax. Again, some delinquencies are included in this as well, but we're seeing a 21.8% increase over FY25. We're at 68% of budget. You can look back and see that's pretty in line with what we saw in FY19. Those years in between with COVID was very difficult for us to estimate budget, and I think that people came out in greater quantities after that than we were budgeting for. And so I think we're in good shape with that. We may come in slightly under budget, but we haven't seen our busier season yet. And then the 0.5% historic sales tax shows a 4.7% increase compared to FY25. We're at 67% of budget. My best estimate would be that we'll definitely would make budget, maybe come in slightly over budget on that as well. Then with our real estate tax revenue, we're still hovering around 52%. We've been there for a while. I would anticipate in May with the June 1st due date, we will see movement in that number. And then our local tax, our personal property tax, is showing a 28.3% increase in actual collections compared to FY25. We're at 92% of budget, which equivalates to right now today, we're about $177,000 under the budget. We do continue to collect on that up through the end of August. So we do collect typically a fair amount of taxes between now and then, and we'll just have to continue to monitor that. On our business property tax, we're at 97% of budget, which is an 8.5% increase compared to 25. And again, we'll continue to collect that and monitor it as we move toward the end of the year. This slide gets real busy, but it's our business and professional license, and this particular slide shows each category, the contracting, the retail, the professional, and the repair and personal business. Each one of these is slightly under budget. The contracting's at 94%, retail sales is at 88%, professional services is at 89%, and the repair and personal business is at 86%. A little easier to read this slide. And so overall, we are at 89% of budget right now. That is about a shortfall of $377,000. If we, I went back and did some work just looking historically. It's typical that we continue to, even though the due date is March 1st, we continue to collect between now and the end of June. And based on that, my best projection is we may come under budget, $175,000, just based on trend data. However, that doesn't, if you look at where we're at now at 2.9 million, a little bit over that, and compare it to where we were in FY25, which was 2.7, almost 2.8 million, we're 5.4% increase over FY25. And that is my slide. My slides are on the revenue. I did have a couple of comments on expenditures right now. So we're at through 83% of the year, and of course our expenditures don't go even. But to make a comparison, our expenditures in the general fund now are at 79% of budget. I did spend some time previewing where we're at independently. I'm seeing a few items are over the budget in terms of a line item, and those are typically unanticipated repairs, typically motor vehicles. I think we had some additional repairs on fire trucks. Also, I'm seeing with the cold winter, we had some heating going over, and I looked at the gas, and right now, as of today, we're still within budget. I don't know if that'll continue to be the case over the next, couple of months, but we're monitoring that. But overall, we're within the within the budget overall. And so there may be some transfers necessary as we end the year. And then in the utility fund, both the revenues and the expenditures are performing well, and both are within budget. And so that concludes my remarks, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Certainly a lot in there. Thank you, Ms. Dameron. I guess just on the revenue side, well, let me about back up. On the expense side, you know, those things that you just mentioned there at the end, there's always some fluctuations.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned the word adjustments. That's a typical action.
That is very typical, and typically what I look at when I'm looking at that is where, you know, because we can transfer within, within a fund, not necessarily between funds, but I'm always monitoring that to see where we're at, whether we need to go back and see if we have any additional revenues that we need to appropriate just in case. But for now, we're good. It'll be a little close because we've been budgeting tighter, we've been holding the line tighter and still fighting inflation. So an example that comes to mind for me and my department is we have a cost to issuing invoices, and that may go up, but I still have to issue utility bills, for instance, or real estate bills. But typically, we try to find other places that we can cut down and then make that transfer where necessary.
And I recognize that, you know, and I'll just speak for myself, part of my initiative over the last few years is to really make our budget tighter, avoiding what we used to have at the end of the year, which was a $2-3 million surplus that we would just automatically transfer the surplus to our CIP. We've kind of done away with that to tighten up the budget. And so that makes it a little bit more constraining, but it also, I think, you know, there's a great deal more accountability with that. On the income side, as we look at the 250th, can you talk a little bit about how we approached this time of year leading into the summer? We have May and June, obviously, of this FY26 budget, and then going into next year's budget of 27-28. How are you
Accounting for some of the increase?
some of the growth that we may see? And
I'm glad you asked that question because
I didn't even set it up like that.
no, actually, Davin Dysberg, who's on our budget analyst, actually spent some time at the Tourism Alliance and working with them on their projections and what they're seeing. And so our projections that we have in there for future years, for 27 as well as 28, is pretty much in line with what they're seeing. So we do have some of that in there, anticipating that there will be some increase with people coming out to the 250th. Also, we'll have the sports complex opening, and I know that they have several events already lined up. So it's exciting times, and yes, we've tried to incorporate that into our projections.
And I appreciate you working with the Tourism Council. As a treasurer of the Tourism Council, we're developing our budget there and trying to, you know, predict what the future looks like. It's very uncertain and it's hard to do. Now, we can all anticipate we'll see greater attendance and sales, but for how long, will this attraction of the 250th have legs and carry us, several months beyond the 4th of July weekend? You just don't know. And I think we ended up at about a 2.7 or 2.4% increase in revenue at Visit Williamsburg. And I think that's pretty much in line with what you're talking here.
Very much so.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for that. Mr. Vice Mayor, anything?
Thank you, Ms. Dameron. No questions.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, monthly departmental operating reports. I don't believe we have anybody.
Can I add something?
Sure.
Since we don't have a monthly departmental operating report, Ms. Kernshire and I had the opportunity this week to attend 3 rollout sessions for WJCC Schools' proposed redistricting plan. So we had homework to make sure that we shared that information. So if you haven't had the opportunity to attend one of those sessions or look at the website, please go on their website. They have the maps, they have a survey that you can participate in. to give them some feedback as they work towards an October decision on what they would do with, if they do anything with school redistricting. But even if you like what you see, comment. If you don't like what you see, comment. The sessions were very well attended. Obviously, it's very emotional for people when their children are involved. So please take the opportunity to look at that and give the school system some input. Thank you.
I'll just add that last night's session at Berkeley Middle School was recorded. So I
Yes,
think that
okay.
if you could watch the session of itself with all of the explanation from the consultants that went into creating the proposed map, which is proposed to impact elementary, middle, and high.
Thank you. I appreciate you bringing that forward. City Manager's report. Mr. Witt, anything? Ms. Shelton, anything for City Attorney?
Nothing.
All right, leads us now to open forum, which is an opportunity for anyone who'd like to come forward. I do have a number of speakers cards, and first I have Dr. Cranbuell.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Welcome, sir.
David Cranbuell, 201 Harrison Avenue. Kind of regret that I'm here too much, but there's lots of things that need to be discussed. I think the first thing I want to say is in many states you have two types of people you vote for. One of them are legal experts, lawyers, and you vote for them to be judges. I don't believe we do that in Virginia. We do it in Wisconsin, and it's a very hot topic. The second thing is we elect people to represent us. And in thinking about the major structure of democracy created here in Williamsburg and Boston, and then in Philadelphia, we created a House of Representatives. I think it's very, very important to realize that you're elected not to be judges, but to represent us. So you really are charged with meeting as many people as possible, talking to as many people as possible, getting as many sides of the story as possible before you act on almost anything. I think we've lost track of that, and we lost complete track of that with our past city manager. So that brings up another point. Anything and everything that he's proposed needs to start over. He has done everything with what he wanted to do. And there are all these steps, including that fake review of we think about new locations for the police station based on people I respect. It's a fraud. It was done by city staff. We never saw the architect. And then we have the questions about how we proceeded with the library. Well, we have to live with these things. You saw me there. We have a beautiful station. I love it. I'm very proud of it. I'm very close with Sean, and he's doing a super job as everybody under him. But now to two issues. I was absolutely shocked. I mean, not having a heart attack, thank goodness, because I go to the gym periodically. But somebody needs to take a little more leadership, and that's you, Doug, and that's you, Michelle. I really have a huge high respect for Jack Reed. First of all, he's the first person that's actually going to complete the sidewalk on Harrison Avenue after no response by the city for years. And he's just totally open to everything. Somebody should have talked to him before we released this report, which is probably one of the most controversial things that you could ever propose for our neighborhoods. I simply say that the next step should be to have some neighborhood, Williamsburg Heights meetings in neighborhoods nearby to talk about putting that utility structure somewhere else. And the sad part is we had among the one or few things that Trivet did well, as he said, it was going elsewhere. Don't worry about it, David. And that was totally backed up by Lucas Jenny, who I worked with often about beautification projects, such as the bushes in front of the deli there on the corner where we have that beautiful landscaping. Now, the last thing is this $600,000 thing. That's totally created by him, Trivet. It's a Trivet proposal. And it was totally designed to create a structure like the library project that he could control the result. I wrote to the most knowledgeable person I know in town and in the university and part of the city, James Boswell, and you have his letter. And what he said to me in an extremely strong and open way is, during my 8 years here, based on that experience, my view is that an outside consultant is non-essential to the preparation of supporting the comprehensive plan, period. And then we have our last planning director. She's totally opposed to it too. It's a waste of money, and it mitigates the role of citizens. And then we have Ruth Kaiser, who has, and you met with her, promising her to be involved in these things, and she has hundreds of signatures opposing it. And there's much better uses for this $600,000, including the debt reduction, which would save us $500,000 plus with the principal and the interest. And then there's these housing proposals we have, which could use hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so I strongly urge you to cancel that and have it be reviewed. It is a total abuse of our money, and I have seen no one speak in favor of it. No one. And so if your job is to represent us, then you need to think about what people think about this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Granby, you're a minute over your time. Thank you.
Yes, I am done. Thank you.
Thank you.
But the more important thing is you follow your role as being representative. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker's card I have is Vernon and/or Jennifer. I know one of you want to go first, so Jennifer, welcome.
Good afternoon. Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Jennifer Getty, and I own Old City Barbecue at 700 York Street with my husband, Vernon Getty. I'm here today to continue the discussion of the meal tax increase approved by this council a few months back. We believe it would be in the best interest of our elected officials who work with and for us as citizens to hear the real-life impact of the short-sighted tax imposed on a budget of $121 million. According to the proposed 2027 budget, the increased meal tax revenue is projected to bring in $1.5 million of revenue. The increase of 1.5% from 5% to 6.5% may seem like a small number. However, with the increasing cost of utilities, rent, groceries, etc., small taxes do mean a lot to our customer base. We are a mid-price restaurant and have customers from all different economic backgrounds. The growing cost of everything hurts some of our customers' ability or desire to dine in or take out from our restaurants. Single mothers getting dinner for their kids after a long shift or a sports event, or people on a fixed income are forced to make a choice on how to spend their money, and the decision is becoming harder to take them to a restaurant to a city in Williamsburg. One of the biggest changes we've seen is when people do come dine in with us at Old City, they are splitting entrees instead of getting their own. They are passing on appetizers and or desserts and getting water instead of iced tea or an alcoholic beverage. Some of these items are high margin for our business, and when people make behavioral changes like this, it ultimately hurts our bottom line. While revenues go up slowly, I might add, this is only due to inflated costs to us. Restaurant ownership is not for the weak. The amount of blood, sweat, and tears that go into making one of the smallest profit margins is reserved for crazy people like my husband and I. You must remember that restaurants are the lifeblood of our local communities, especially local restaurants. We made our position clear when discussing tax increases before you approved it, making this more of a formality than anything. We have to explain that when the bill goes up, the tip goes down, hurting our servers, kitchen staff, and dishwashers who keep this city running. These are our employees and our family, and yet despite immense pushback, the council decided to proceed anyway. To ignore the experts and the workers of our most vital industry is a failure of representation in our eyes. The city has seen a slew of restaurant closings over the past few years, which should be an indicator of how difficult this business is. When these restaurants close, it puts people out of jobs and creates no meal taxes. That does not seem like a sensible approach to raising tax revenue for a $121 million budget. I hope you have taken to heart and listened and understand that your actions, despite the pushback received, have real-life consequences that affect real-life people that live in Williamsburg. And from speaking with other restaurant owners in the city, it's only becoming more difficult to remain viable. I ask that you work on the budget to at least reverse your decision to raise the meal tax back to 5%, which is still a little high in our opinion, but it would be a good start to return some trust back to our public officials and the people that voted you in these seats. We thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Getty. The other Getty. Welcome, Vernon.
The other Getty. Let's see. Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Vernon Getty, and I own Old City Barbecue with my beautiful wife, Jennifer, at 700 York Street. I quickly want to thank Mayor Pons for his service to this community over the past decade. We appreciate it. Thank you. But I'm here to speak on a much more serious issue, the proposed 2027 budget. We're looking at a $121 million budget, a 17% increase over last year. While the city presents this as a balanced plan, it is being balanced on the backs of local families and small business owners. I'm here to ask you to do what you haven't done yet. Trim the internal fat and eliminate the meals tax increase. It is not a necessity, it is a choice. And it is a choice that ignores the very people you were elected to represent. The city claims to be holding the line by keeping real estate tax rate at 62 cents. We all know this is a shell game. You are collecting a backdoor tax increase from every property owner because of inflated property assessments. Property owners are already paying significantly more than they were 2 years ago. The property I leased for Old City is currently assessed at $1.48 million, where the building itself is assessed at $878,000. The building is 56 years old, and in 2019, the building was assessed at $312, and I promise it has not increased in real value since then. This represents a 181% increase over the last 7 years. Perhaps a real honest discussion about the real estate tax rates should be had with the public, because at the end of the day, this is a dollar amount on a budget line item and nothing more. The organic growth of the increased tax revenue from inflated assessments is handing the city an extra $1.1 million in revenue this year alone. By keeping the rate the same while assessments skyrocket, you're effectively double dipping. If the city truly needed to bridge the gap, a transparent discussion about a minor real estate tax adjustment would have been the honest approach. It would spread the burden across all property owners, including large commercial entities, rather than targeting one single industry, our restaurants. The meals tax hike is expected to bring in $1.5 million additional dollars in 2027. We have heard the argument that this is a tourist tax. This is a fallacy. About 65% of my restaurant customers at Old City are local residents. This isn't a tax on visitors. It's a tax on the parent picking up dinner after a long shift, or like my wife said, the senior on a fixed income meeting friends. What is most frustrating is that there has been no effort to adjust the spending on the spending side of the ledger. You're asking for 14 new full-time positions costing nearly $900,000. You're pushing forward a $41.6 million capital improvement plan, including a $20 million library. I am all for the new firehouse and police station. Our first responders deliver the best as they selflessly put themselves in harm's way for the betterment of our community, but a $20 million library is a wish list item, given the new debt service for the fire and police stations should not be on the list there. With costs ever increasing in roughly 7% utility hike, for example, responsible council would find $1.5 million in savings within a $121 million budget. That's just over 1% of total spending. I really hope we could find 1% in efficiencies, to avoid taxing our food. You say we must raise this tax while simultaneously expanding the size of government is frankly insulting to the taxpayer. You work for the citizens, not the department heads, not the consultants, not the wish list. The citizens have spoken loudly. We cannot afford this and we do not want it. Yet it was done anyway. I urge you to show that public comment is more than just a box you check before doing what you had already planned to do. Revisit the CIP, utilize the windfall from our assessments, and eliminate the meals tax increase, or God forbid, cut some of the fat from the budget. Show us that you are listening. As a small business owner, I do not have the luxury of increasing taxes for revenue. I have to budget like it could bankrupt my business. This tax has already shown negative effects on my business from local diners and will continue to do so if the meals tax is not reduced. This is just the beginning for me. I will fight this tax. I will fight for a better budget. I will engage our local restaurant owners and patrons to continue to drive this point home for a second time, because the first time it didn't feel like we were listened to. I am also concerned about what happened to the former city manager who was driving this agenda and budget with an increased CIP and now resigned and no one knows why. Would it have been a good idea to move forward with increasing the meals tax even though not a single citizen thought it was a good idea to, given these circumstances? You tell me. I respectfully ask, please don't bite the hand that feeds you. You will slowly destroy the place you claim to serve and love. Respectfully.
Thank you, Mr. Getty. Next speaker's card I have is Ms. Murphy, Carolyn Murphy. Welcome.
Thank you. Mayor Pons and members of the councils, Carolyn Murphy, 221 Yorkshire Drive. Today I'd like to talk about the proposed budget and remind everyone that the removal of $1.6 million from reserves to balance this budget. I recommend the first goal should be to balance the budget without dipping into our reserves. Questions still remain to be on the following positions proposed at Monday's meeting: justifications for the assistant park manager position, communication specialist, and also for a grant manager that was not in the original budget submittal. Also, the vehicle maintenance apprentice should be postponed until the new garage is constructed, which was on your agenda today, but as I understand has been postponed. The utility manager is still in the budget, and it was noted briefly Monday that comes out of the utility budget. When increases were proposed for the water rate increase, no mention was made to hire a utility manager. The rate increases each year was for upgrades to our water sewer systems. Taking money away from upgrades each year for another middle management position needs to be justified. For all the positions, I asked what is broken to require these positions? What services will not be done if these positions are not filled? I have yet to get any answers to that basic question. Based on the staff's Monday's presentation, 8.5 positions are proposed instead of 14. In my opinion, a complete adopted budget must be posted before July for citizens to know what was approved by council, to include current updated information on all CIP projects that have not been completed, to post a document that just notes the changes made to money is not acceptable to citizens, and I hope it's not acceptable to you. The multiple areas and information lacking on CIP items and other areas in the budget needs to be revised as part of the budget. It appears we continue to build up inertia on projects without public input until the amount of money spent before the public input is so great that we can't say no to the project. Public input is needed before large projects are designed to save staff, city council, and citizens from considerable frustration. I know you guys are frustrated. We're frustrated too. We must strive to get back to a city where public employees respond to citizens promptly. I emailed the Finance Department 5 questions on the proposed budget on April the 5th. As of today, I have still not received a reply to that request. We must strive to put public back into public service. We need to have a cultural change in the city. Questions raised by citizens at a city council meeting should be directed to the appropriate staff person to get back to that person by email or a phone call. We deserve an answer to our questions. It is very frustrating to ask questions and get no answers. We need to put the public, again, back in public service. I think this will help with the current tension between citizens, staff, and council. The cultural change is needed and will help to build trust again between all parties. which will be a benefit to all of us. Thanks for allowing me to talk today.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come forward? Welcome, Ms. Fairbanks.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council. Sabrina Fairbanks, 119 Berkeley Lane in Walnut Hills. I wanted to talk to you today about an unusual time we find ourselves in, and maybe where you would consider changing the process by which we are coming up with these expensive capital improvement projects, many of which we never seem to get to. And that is the GIO retreat and the survey process that goes into that. For those who haven't been a part of this for a few years, we have one survey that is a national survey. That's coming up, that's in this budget. It's thousands and thousands of dollars. It's supposed to be random. It was posted on the website and citizens were invited to fill it out, but it turns out if you filled it out online, the data wasn't counted. They only counted the data from the surveys that random people got in the mail. I find it odd that out of 200 plus people that are on our email chain, we know one family that got that. And I will say I do question the randomness of these national surveys. I've got a 6-unit apartment building, which Councilwoman Williams knows where those are, and our tenants, 3 of them had moved out. So I was getting stuff out of the mailbox and going to put it in the recycling bin. 3 of them, 50% of my tenants got a survey. Now, if it's random, how is that possible? I mean, they're all 201 Carey Street, apartment, whatever. I mean, I really question the randomness of this. And I also question whether you need a general survey to see how we're doing compared to other localities around the country. I don't know if that's helpful when it's so general. The other survey that goes into this is, and the big event are the future festivals, which are essentially, for those who don't know, are festivals in a park where there are children's games used to collect information about what the community wants to see happen in the future. And historically, there has been a small fraction of tax-paying people who attend these. It's usually very hot, and they don't come out for a free hot dog. It's my understanding the families really enjoy it, but there's often non-residents who are there filling these surveys out. And, you know, while I fully support James City County's taxpayers questioning that new development out by Eastern State Hospital, I am not filling out those online surveys because I don't feel like it's fair that a city resident would tell them how to spend their money. And we feel like that's what happens at these festivals. We've got, and I would speak for most of us in our group, is that we would like to all give you feedback. You send us our real estate assessments, you know where to find us. We would all like to get a survey and participate that way. And then, you know, to get other residents, that would be fine at however you might do it. But right now, I don't know how wise it is for you to take 2 days out of your life, do these surveys, have these future festivals at great expense, staff time. Now they want 2 trailers in this budget to haul the stuff around for the festivals. That's a lot of money. But is it wise to take 2 days out of your life and figure out more projects which are priorities for you when we haven't even been able to get to the projects that are already on the books? And, you know, in terms of these future festival surveys, I get my last thing in here. You know, you say, what's wrong with them? There's just, again, besides the small sample size, they are staff generated. And I don't want to be disrespectful to staff, but they aren't statisticians
and survey experts, nor am I. But there's these questions that are multiple choice questions within a yes or no question. So for instance, there was a question that said, would it be a good idea to have a William and Mary Research Center on a William and Mary Research campus on CW land with multi-density housing? So you could not respond that you thought a research center and job opportunities was a good thing.
Ms. Fairbanks, you wrap it up. Yeah.
Thank
Going
you,
over
and
the
I
5
hope
minutes.
you're able to maybe forgo that process this time till you get a new council and a new city manager.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Hughes, welcome.
Williamsburg Avenue. I wasn't, again, going to say anything, but Back to the Future festivals. That is a biased endeavor brought on by the former city manager. There again, back to the former city manager. What all was going on where he was force-feeding the future festival and everybody along with city council. We're not in the European Union. We're not a 15-minute hemisphere. We live around the town. You have to go across town. You can't walk from my house to a store in 15 minutes. It's not a 15 minutes. And this real estate appraisal, my home went from $47,000, just the structure, to $174,000 in 3 years. Tell me what's wrong with that. On top of that, plus a 25% surcharge. But the view came to me. Share with one of the city council members that living to a golf course is hazardous to your health. But let's go ahead and charge as much as we can. It's not fair. It's not right. What went along with Fleet? What went along with city council? What went along with the city manager? Questions need to be answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come forward? Yes, ma'am.
Natalie Miller-Moore, 220 West Duke of Gloucester Street. I'm sorry that I was late, but one of the things I want to speak to is the city council meetings being at 2 p.m. on a Thursday mean that the people that you hear from regularly do not represent all of the people who live in Williamsburg. So, as a working parent who travels, who's in school, it's taken a lot of effort for me to be here. And I appreciate that you put up with a lot of complaints. And I, of course, have some suggestions, but I'm here to talk about my time working on the library board, where I was a volunteer, and I got to see how things work. And I would really encourage people who are concerned about how things function to be participants and not just bystanders. So I was on the library board from 2015 to 2024. I have a unique longitudinal view here. I have lived in Williamsburg for 25 years, which is half of my life, and I was officially affiliated with the library for nearly 10 years, which is 20% of my life. And I volunteered on the board because I care so much about public libraries and what they do for us as a community information hub, the People's University, and a great place to spend an afternoon. But I will say that my perspective was that we started talking about building a new library at least a decade ago, and then we put it off for other priorities, which I am not saying were not important. But as we won Library of the Year in 2023, and a national ELGL contest, we came in second nationally because there's so much support for the Williamsburg Library that the only people who could beat us had to get the Denver Broncos to support them. And our Gold Star library status as one of the top 6% of libraries in the country is really important. And part of this is that the staff is amazing and the programming is amazing, but the building is falling apart. So as part of my role, I went to the Virginia Library Association conference nearly every year, rotates around the state. I saw amazing libraries in Norfolk where they took a historic building and built a new wing and combined them. Went to Roanoke and looked at their central library. When the Virginia Library Association conference was here in 2018, no one wanted to come see our library because there was absolutely nothing in the building for them to admire. It was a conglomeration of pieces and parts that has poor security, a leaky roof, and old wiring built into concrete blocks. Now, we have followed the CIP process, and before the pandemic, we did focus groups and we talked to people about what they envisioned. It's been a long public hearing process, and I understand that it will continue. However, I think that the complaints about what it's going to cost us are very short-sighted. It's going to cost us a lot more in the long run, and decisions had to be made about replacing the HVAC system. Should we replace it for $500,000, or should we try to patch it together with Scotch tape and Band-Aids so that we can get into the new library in the future that is just around the corner? The library staff deserves a better place to work and not to spend their time trying to ameliorate problems with an old building. It's been reviewed by architects. It costs more money to renovate than to build a new one. It's part of the plan as the police station moves along. But I just want to point out, my final minute here, that having a library card is actually a form of debt. They trust you to take out those materials and those books on the community generosity that exists here. And so they trust us to return things, and I think it's time for us to really commit to the investment that is an important part of Williamsburg and the community here. And I understand it's expensive, but I also think it's worth it, and that we are in a pay now or pay later situation. And there are very rare circumstances in which paying later is actually the better option because it's almost always more expensive. And I would hate to see a big storm come through and shut down the library, but that is a very real possibility. And so thank you for this continued tenacity. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come forward? Seeing none, I'll close the open forum and we'll move on. There's no unfinished business and leads us now to new business. And first is item A is consideration and action regarding the extension of a year-round events management service contract with AVAdventure Productions. Ms. Skrabala, welcome.
All right. Good afternoon, Mayor Pons, members of the City Council. There we go. So at Monday's work session, AVAdventure Productions presented an overview of the events produced under the year-round event management services contract. So today I'll be making a request to extend the contract. All right. First, I wanted to offer a little background for how the contract came to be as a part of the 2023-2024 GIO cycle. Council directed staff to attract regional visitation by partnering with the best possible vendor to provide year-round events that were diverse, exciting, and add quality of life to residents and businesses. In the fall of 2022, an RFP was issued for year-round event management services. 4 proposals were received and reviewed by staff. In January of 2023, staff conducted interviews with the 2 finalists, and in March of that year, the contract was awarded to AVAdventure Productions. I did want to note that at the time of the RFP, another was issued for a signature event. However, the proposals received did not meet the city's expectations. The city was given the opportunity to manage the already established Ampersand International Arts Festival, formerly known as the William & Mary Global Film Festival. And in October of 2023, Council authorized the execution of an amendment to add Ampersand to AVAdventure's contract for FY24 only, using tourism ARPA funds. Since then, the city has executed a separate contract with Ampersand, or for Ampersand, and it is not a part of this contract. Right. Because AVAdventure presented an in-depth overview on Monday, I didn't want to spend a lot of time on the events during the presentation, but I did want to summarize some of their highlights up here. Over time, the Last Word Comedy Festival has seen a 71% increase in attendance. In 2026, a training program for comedians was added, further enhancing the festival's reputation as a nationally respected event. And as Mr. Stackhouse noted on Monday, others now see our Williamsburg event as a model for other communities. The Williamsburg Wine and Whiskey Weekend uniquely serves to help our small businesses as a decentralized event. Last year, which was the second year, all ticketed events were sold out and a physical event hub was added to Merchant Square. Having a partnership with Visit Williamsburg also helped to track engagement through the APPS incentive. For this year's event, which is in July, 17 businesses have already signed up with 25 events, and they're still adding more. As expressed at Monday's meeting, BirdQuest speaks to a very specific audience, but also an audience that will travel for their events. The partnership with MagFest is kind of a big deal and a win for the BirdQuest name. And after utilizing different venues for its first 2 years, we're excited to see it expand to the Sports and Events Center this fall. The Virginia Cat Festival. Personally, every time I hear it mentioned, I cannot help but smile. This is another event that truly diversifies Williamsburg's offerings, and it's really paid off. The first 2 years achieved attendance capacity at the Lodge, and for 2026, it's also moving to the Sports and Event Center. And it shouldn't be a surprise that it's garnered a lot of attention, notably as the subject of Visit Williamsburg's most viewed Instagram post for 2025. One of the more commendable notes about this event is that the vendors, special events, and special guests and attendees all acknowledge and appreciate that it's a city event without corporate sponsorships, meaning there are no hidden agendas, influence, or covert advertising happening. I know it's not a part of this contract for year-round event management services, but I included ampersand on here just as a part of AVAdventure's overall city offerings, as it only continues to expand its programming and prestige. I did want to also note that after Monday's meeting, I spoke with Mr. Stackhouse briefly to discuss putting together a metrics report. With nearly 3 years of data, we look at not only ticket sales, but also social media and advertising engagement, foot traffic, and other indicators to draft this report. So there's that in the works. And then, while we're excited about what AVAdventure has done so far, and we're confident that the events will only thrive from here, continuing to bolster Williamsburg's reputation as a vibrant destination. With that, staff requests authorization to execute an amendment to extend the contract to include FY27 with options to renew for years after, subject to annual appropriation. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Ms. Skrabala, thank you, and I appreciate you bringing this opportunity back to us, and certainly appreciate Mr. Stackhouse's presentation Monday. You know, this is real economic development. This is real community building. This is real cultural enhancements to Williamsburg, and I would dare say it's been a successful program that our city and council and staff and residents have been a part of, to bring these signature events to Williamsburg, because it gives us yet another 4 new opportunities to put us on the map, to draw visitations, to stay in hotels, to eat in our restaurants, and increase our tax base. One of the things that you said really stuck out. It supports our local businesses, and to me, it meets all the goals that we set out to achieve when we began this program. So I'm really excited about doing this again.
Thank you, Mr. Skrabala. No questions. I just really want to say that this is doing exactly what we envisioned when we selected these events. And like you, I smile on the Cat Festival because when we initially selected that event, I could not see it being as successful as it's been. And just to measure that success by being able to move to the Greater Williamsburg Sports and Event Center this year, so that both locations have a home and more space, is indicative of the growth that it's seen. And really bringing the name to Williamsburg, as you mentioned, with the Comedy Festival. So looking forward to it again.
Yes, thank you. I waxed on about the Cat Festival and everything on Monday, so I'll spare everybody that again. But I'm pleased to hear the metrics report that you're talking about, because I just think it's really critical for us to have that information.
Absolutely.
And One thing that I would really be interested in knowing is, where people are traveling from, because I do go to all these events and I talk to as many people as possible, and I'm always pleased when I hear people are coming from all over, and I know that because I talk to them, but I think, I'm just one person walking around. And so I think that in the development of this, to the extent, at all possible, to not just know like how much is growing or the number of tickets sold, but where are people coming from? How is that social media impact paying off when we really are working to meet our goals in terms of getting people here and hopefully repeat customers coming back every year to these events as well. So I appreciate all the work that's been done, and I'm really glad to hear about what's planned in terms of really harnessing the data that we can learn from what I agree has been a successful experiment that we've done the last couple years that is paying off, but we really, I really look forward to the numbers to see that too.
Absolutely, and to your point, with this, I think we'll be able to create kind of an attendee profile for each event, so we know the types of people that come, if they're families, if they're singles or couples, and then also, like you said, the demographics, where are they coming from, how far are they traveling, where are they staying, so I think that's really important as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for the update again. And I think one thing that I like about this program is it continues to expand our base of entertainment, whether it be for residents or for tourists. And one thing that we've strived to do over the past number of years is that so that entertainment options complement each other, they don't compete. And one of the big initiatives of ours is the Sports and Events Center, and we always talk that it didn't compete with Colonial Williamsburg or Busch Gardens, but it provided an additional venue. And to me, it's sort of doubling that effort when we see the BirdQuest and the Cat Festival being able to utilize that space. So to me, it's an extra win-win in that regard. And I think it's important for the measurements, not only where people are traveling from, but it'll help us sort of measure what they might be looking for next. As we talked about on Monday, events tend to run a course, and what do we need to refresh them? One thing that might be interesting to find out too is how our attendance measures against similar events in other cities. Because, Adam talks about the numbers who come in for a comedy festival, and compared to the Cat Festival, they seem a little small. But that may be sort of what the expected attendance is for comedy festivals in other mid-sized cities who have even been in existence much longer.
Right.
So that might be something else that could be helpful for us as we go along. But all in all, I'm excited to support these in the FY27 budget.
Well, thank you for the information and also for the detail going into providing us the metrics. And I think Ms. Ramsey's suggestion of looking at kind of a comparative analysis with us compared to different localities hosting similar events, I think definitely would be beneficial as we look forward to the future of these events. So I am personally excited to look at the tangible data as we move forward. So thank you.
All right, so I move that City Council authorize the interim city manager to execute an amendment to extend the year-round event management services contract for AVAdventure Productions to include FY27.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. McKay?
Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey. Aye. Mayor Pons.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Aye.
Ms. Kernshire.
Aye.
Thank you. Item B is consideration and approval of proposed resolution 26-08 authorizing participation in the Virginia Main Street program by the City of Williamsburg as a Department of Housing and Community Development exploring Main Street communities. Ms. DeWitt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. This resolution will authorize our downtown Williamsburg organization to access two things: technical assistant and be eligible to apply for grants from the state under the Main Street designation. So we're asking council to approve that.
Questions?
Makes sense for to me for us to proceed in that way.
No questions?
Yeah, so, being able to participate, allowing them to, it puts them in a position so that they can find grants and go out and find other dollars that would support their mission.
Absolutely. And the Virginia Main Street program is a nationwide known program for its success in revitalizing main streets. I used to manage the program in a former life, but at the state level. But it's a program full of resources that the organization has been using, and we just like to. This allows them to be an exploring Main Street community, not a designated community.
Give us an example of something that they would try to achieve.
Sure. So they would provide economic analysis of the mix of retail and restaurants and different commercial uses you have in a downtown, and what's the best balance for those businesses to succeed, but also to attract people to the area. So it can be as technical and as economic as that. It can also include how do you provide an event that brings new people downtown so they'll keep coming downtown to spend time and treasure.
Sounds like a prosperous opportunity for us to do this, so thank you.
Yes.
Would somebody like to make a motion?
Yes, I move that City Council adopt Resolution 26-08.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. McKay?
Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey.
Aye.
Mayor Pons.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Aye.
Ms. Kernshare.
Thank you. Leads us now to item C, consideration and approval of a contract with WRT to assist the development of the City of Williamsburg's comprehensive plan. Ms. Griffin, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you once again, Mayor Pons, Vice Mayor Dent, and members of City Council. Based on the results of a thorough and competitive and community-centered selection process, staff respectfully recommends that Council authorize us to enter into a contract with Wallace, Roberts, and Tide, also known as WRT, for the update of the city's comprehensive plan in the amount of $575,000 budgeted over FY '26 and '27. I provided a detailed report on the procurement process, but I thought it important to speak to the substance of the work, the decision to use a consultant for the plan update, and the choice of WRT specifically. I will warn you, it is over the 5-minute button that we usually go with. So, every locality, as you know, in the Commonwealth must review the comprehensive plan at least once every 5 years. This is in accordance with Section 15.2, 2230 of the Code of Virginia. Our current plan was adopted September 9th of 2021, so we are within that 5-year period. A review alone, however, does not always lead to an update. Sometimes a locality's review can review its plan and find it still serves the community well. In our case, I believe that we all agree that an update is warranted. Between 2022 and 2024, when rezoning and special use permit requests for housing development came before the city, I'll refresh your memory at Penniman Road, Spotswood, High Street, and Landmark Village. Residents, the Planning Commission, and this council repeatedly called for a broader conversation about housing, affordability, density, and public infrastructure capacity. And we kept hearing the same message. We need to resolve these bigger questions. All of these projects were either withdrawn by the applicant or denied. It was recognized that approving them without a deeper and broader conversation would not serve our community well. And that consistent call for a harder look at housing, growth, our values, and our character has elevated this update from a routine review to a genuine community priority. Additionally, since 2021, our world has changed. The ongoing impacts of COVID-19, shifts in retail demand, new patterns of work, significant demographic changes have reshaped the landscape. The need for housing across all income levels, the housing shortage crisis, and the challenges facing brick and mortar retail are no longer background concerns. They are front page issues for every community, including ours. The update of the comprehensive plan is a strategic goal of the city. It's outlined in our 25-26 goals, initiatives, and outcomes. This update is pivotal. and calls for an elevated, more rigorous approach than any other previous plan that the city has done. The methodology, the depth of community engagement, forecasting, and research required to answer the complex and multifaceted questions facing our city demand more capacity than our planning division can responsibly absorb alongside our day-to-day responsibilities. Our planning division is an office of 4, and I say that we are mighty. It includes our assistant planner, a zoning administrator, a principal planner, and myself, the director. We are qualified professionals who carry the full operational load of this division. We present land use applications before the City Council, the Planning Commission, the Board of Zoning Appeals, the Architectural Review Board, and the principal planner and myself sit on 5 regional boards, not including the ones that I just named. In addition, we conduct site plan and subdivision reviews, zoning ordinance compliance inspections, building permits, and the list could go on. Using a consultant allows us to bring outside expertise, impartial analysis, varying engagement strategies, and proven best practices to this process, while keeping daily city operations fully staffed and functioning. Even with WRT in place, planning staff, as well as other key directors and staff members, will play a vital role in the update process, adding institutional and expertise in their particular fields. Now I want to speak directly to the process that we undertook. Again, the report is in the packet, but I do want to say that we published the RFP in October of 2025. We received 14 proposals. 12 of them were responsive. We held a pre-submittal meeting, an optional tour on October the 22nd, and the proposals were opened on January 13th, 2026. 10 staff members conducted phase 1. This was a structured review of each proposal. The proposals were scored against the same rubric, tied to the 10 key topics in our RFP. Staff had over a month to review each submission, and the top 4 firms advanced to phase 2. Phase 2 was intentionally designed to center community voices. Our 17-member selection review committee was structured so that 11 of those members, 65%, were not city staff. The committee included 2 city council members, 2 planning commission members, 3 Williamsburg residents, and 4 representatives from major partner organizations, including the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation, William and Mary, Visit Williamsburg, and the Williamsburg Chamber of Commerce. The 4 finalist firms presented to the full committee over 2 consecutive days. That was March 30th and 31st of this year. Each firm received equal time and the same interview process. Each committee member independently scored each firm using the interview rubric, and that independence does matter. The results were compiled by planning staff, and I facilitated the final discussion. And now to WRT. They emerged as the committee's top-ranked firm with an average score of 83 out of 100. 8 of the 17 committee members ranked them as number 1, and 6 of the 17 committee members ranked them as number 2. They were overwhelmingly the choice of this diverse group. WRT is a nationally recognized planning and design firm with more than 60 years of experience. They integrate planning, landscape architecture, urban design, and architecture into a single practice. WRT does not bring a one-size-fits-all template to their work. It begins with listening, and they believe every community is defined by its people, its history, and its landscape, and that meaningful planning only emerges from understanding those layers. WRT has a strong track record in communities comparable to Williamsburg. They have led comprehensive plan initiatives in Smithfield, Missouri, a small, historically rich city with a strong sense of place, similar to ours. They have worked with Keene, New Hampshire, a community known for its walkability, its character, and progressive planning. Their planning expertise spans comprehensive plans, small area plans, community, park, and housing plans. And right here in our region, they led the comprehensive plan effort for the city of Norfolk. They've done work in Newport News, Danville, Richmond, and Arlington. WRT has won awards for their facilitation of comprehensive plans as recent as 2025 and 2022. Also important is that they understand Virginia's planning framework based on their past experience. They boast a list of 17 awards for their comprehensive plans in places like Albany, Sacramento, Greensboro, Annapolis, Irving, St. Charles, and Austin. Joining WRT are 3 subcontractors selected for their specialized expertise. The first is U3 Advisors. They specialize in connecting anchor institutions with their surrounding communities. Next is Kimberly Horn, who we are all familiar with, a leading engineering, transportation, and design firm with local offices and local work. And then JS&A, an economic development consulting firm. And I'm going to skip some of the stuff that I have. But I do want to say, the plan that emerges from this process will not be a consultant's product, but it will be Williamsburg's plan built by this community and for this community. Alongside the contract, the city has already invested approximately $24,000 in public input. This is a web-based public engagement platform that will be used exclusively throughout this process. Public input allows residents and property owners to participate through surveys, interactive mapping, questions, and scenario planning online on their own time from wherever they are. It ensures that the people who cannot attend a meeting are not left out of the conversation, and those who were in the room can continue to engage in the conversation. What makes public input particularly valuable is what happens in the background. It collects demographic data and automatically synthesizes both qualitative and quantitative feedback. That means we will be able to see not just who we are talking to and who is saying what, but identifying what we may need to do to bring more voices to the table. We're also planning a comprehensive plan update committee of up to 15 to 20 people. This could be seen as a steering committee, community ambassadors, and an engagement working group. Included in the engagement plan are a series of community workshops to be held in 3 to 4 locations throughout the city. There will be pop-up events and community listening and visioning workshops. If council authorizes the approval of this contract over the next few months, WRT will collect data for a thoroughly existing conditions analysis to develop a robust community assessment. At the same time, the consulting team and city staff will finalize a community engagement plan and prepare a dedicated website to keep the public informed and to provide opportunities for involvement throughout the comprehensive plan process. The official community launch of the comprehensive plan update process and opportunity for public participation is scheduled for September of this year. If approved today, a press release will be issued along with the launch of a website that provides an overview of the process with supplementary documentation and a frequently asked questions section, links to WRT's website, and an opportunity to leave contact information for updates throughout the process. I am happy to answer any questions, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. Very comprehensive discussion there, and I appreciate all the points that you made. They certainly encapsulate, for me, how we got to this point and the determination to bring in a third party. I would offer to say that this will be my 5th or 6th comprehensive plan, although I won't be here when it's completed to participate in it. And from this position, I'll be in the audience participating. And what strikes me as where we are today being different than where we were in my previous, whether it was my 8 years on Planning Commission, 4 as chair, and 16 years on council now, is the community is much different. And I'll just use as an example, when we approached comprehensive plans in the past and we looked at the MS district, which is land primarily owned by Colonial Williamsburg, we didn't really have much to think about. It was museum support, and it was just tucked away, and we focused on other aspects of the city. I think today, and looking at it, and having dealt with, for example, the Spotswood, we understand that the owner of those lands wishes to do something with them, as is their right, and they have a right to have an opportunity to rezone those lands. When we were going through those discussions, I remember talking amongst council and former staff, and it may have been me that said, we ought to look at a third-party entity to come in and help us with this, because it's going to be so much different than it has been in the past. And part of, for me, is I wanted to take away the accusation that it was an inside job. If we just did it in-house, there would be an accusation that, city staff just did what they wanted to do and they didn't listen to us. This gives us an opportunity to take that burden off of council and staff to say, here's an entity that is unbiased and is really, of course, we're paying them, and so there's a little bit there, but they are going to engage in the public based on what you just outlined in ways that I don't believe we have done in the past. Online opportunities and all the things that you just mentioned, and I certainly didn't. I tried to write some of it down, but there was so much there that I thought was beneficial. So being able to have have another entity come and support planning staff and council and other staff members in drafting this plan, to me, is an essential part of the process. Yes, it's cost $600,000. If we didn't bring in a third party, there's still a cost. There's still staff time, and in that staff time taking away from other things we have to approve means that we're not out inspecting, properties and not doing the other work that we have naturally, organically happening every day within the department. Because there is so much that we need to be looking at. And so this gives us an opportunity to be very comprehensive in an update, not simply a review. And I think that is a distinctive difference between some of what we've done in the past. And we spent, as a planning commissioner, we spent months on that. And staff spent a great deal of time on that. Thinking back to my first iteration of comp plan, sitting with Mr. Nestor, the then planning director, and it must have been that thick. And part of what we wanted to do is to skinny it down so that it was easier for everyone to understand and get through it. And we worked a lot on that as a commission and as through staff. But again, this is a little different because we have land that we need to make decisions on that we didn't have in the past. Both at CW, maybe the university. There's opportunities to look at how we address housing different than we did in the past. There's been great conversations about affordability in housing. Well, let's have that conversation so that we're all on the same page, because developing affordable housing is hard. Yeah. Where's it going to go? How's it going to be affordable to who, and those types of things. This is an opportunity to address that. Richmond Road Corridor used to be the main drag into town, and it is not what it was in 1992 when I first joined the Planning Commission. Newtown, Monticello Avenue didn't exist back then. How people traverse through the greater Williamsburg area is much different. Maybe we need to look at Richmond Road in a way that's different than what it means today. Maybe it's mixed use, maybe there's housing on Richmond Road instead of, saying it's just a commercial corridor. We ought to have that conversation, and that's going to require more focused attention, more focused communication, more focused discussion with our residents and the businesses in a way that I don't think, nothing against you and your staff, that you can handle absent having somebody else help us with that. So I'm fully supportive of bringing on WRT, I almost said W something else, but WRT to assist us with this program. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. And first of all, I don't have any questions, having served as one of council's representatives on the interview team. I would like to thank the members of the interview team. There was a lot that went into that process with reviewing the packets of the consultants that were interviewed, and then the actual interview process. And, you know, as we've heard from the community a lot about the cost, and I would, since day one when we mentioned this process, I've been concerned about the cost. But as we continue to have those discussions, I tried to put the cost aside and look at what a comprehensive plan is. It's one of the most important guiding documents that we can pass as a council and put together as a locality. It gives a vision for that growth in housing and transportation and economic vitality, all those things that we know a comprehensive plan can do. But I also think it's a significant effort and a substantial amount of work. And that's why you see, when you do the research, you see more localities across the country are using a consultant to help with that process. And there's no doubt in my mind that any of the consultants we interviewed could have done a great job. It was really, obviously one rose to the top for different reasons. But I will say one of the things that really stood out for me during that process, and I think is important about using a consultant for this, is the public engagement process. And every consultant, that was the same questions for me as I challenged them on their public engagement process. And I think as what we face as a locality becomes more complex, again, not taking anything away from your staff, but they bring an expertise from having worked across the country. They may bring ideas that we may not even have thought of, but also realize that not every idea they bring to the table is going to be something that works for Williamsburg. I also know there's a concern in the community that the outcomes of this have been predetermined, just by some of the language that was in the RFP, that decisions have already been made what Williamsburg is going to look like. I'm certainly not looking through this process with that lens as we move forward. And I really think that the consultant is well prepared to bring residents, council, stakeholders, staff, all together in developing a comprehensive plan that has our community shared vision. I truly believe that. And I really challenge everyone. I mean, I've been there with the cost of this process from the beginning, but I put that aside to look at what was best for the community. And I truly believe this is the process that's best for the community, and really a way that we're going to focus in on getting community engagement as we move this process forward. And it's an 18-month process, so we're going to need everyone to be engaged for an 18-month process to develop a plan that we could all be proud of. Thank you for the work on this, and thank you for the presentation.
Hi, thank you. Thank you very much for that very comprehensive, no pun intended, presentation you just did. But in all seriousness, there's a lot, this is an important thing, and this definitely has generated conversation and concern and dialogue, and this is the beginning, and I think this is a good thing. And there are a couple things that you brought up in your presentation and that have been mentioned, but I want to elevate a little bit in my remarks. And one thing, because like the vice mayor, I was a little bit like, ooh, when on this first, like, ooh, that's a lot of money, and it's a huge responsibility, right? And that's true. Like this is a high cost, and therefore we are accountable to making sure that this is successful and correct for our community, hands down, right? And so a couple of things that you mentioned, really, I think I want to put a bit of a fine point on it. Like, why can't this be done internally? You mentioned you have 4 staff, four people. And one thing I was thinking about over the last year or 2 or 3, one thing that came up was like, gosh, why did it take Ready for so long? That was a process that took a really long time over a course of a couple years. But I recall right? That all of those development proposals that you mentioned, they came through the door. And so you had, and your staff were dealing with that because those are statutory timelines that we have to deal with, so that other stuff has got to get put to the side. Longer term projects like rent-ready, inspections that people needed to get done and that we're asking for, it was like, well, we've got things we must do in real time. We can't just say, well, we're going to get to that later. So I think that we all need to be, put a fine point on it. Like, we've seen an example very recently of something that was a bigger picture project that kept getting pushed and pushed and pushed because you have to deal with what's coming through the door right now. And I also was mentioned earlier, like, we want, and we expect, and as we should as a community, for that email to get returned if a citizen has a question, a phone call to get returned if a citizen has a question. And so that is what your department is doing and is here for. And so when we think about that daily, everything that I just said, and then layer on something that is incredibly important, like a strategic plan as this one, I think that then starts to tilt towards why we need somebody else to come in and assist with this. And I think that another thing that you brought about, that you mentioned that I think is really important, is during those debates and the dialogues that were happening over those particular applications that were coming in, and I heard it too, what is the plan? What is the vision? Like, what are we trying to do? And those are great questions. It's exactly the questions that we as a community should be asking when things are coming fast and furious. It's like, what are we doing here, And so that is a valuable and critical question that this plan is designed, this process is designed to answer. And I think that even amongst like the heartburn and the angst, which I understand, about maybe some aspects of this, if we back up and say this is a good thing that we are going to do with this process that we all know and we have just seen that we need, right? I think that we want to keep that in front of mind. And then the other thing, two other things that I want to say is that as mentioned by the Vice Mayor as well, and something that I learned through the interview process, really is about how central community engagement will be to this process. I think what I hope everybody understands is that community engagement is going to be better. It is going to be more robust. It is going to be more active because of the process that is getting put in place. And I think that provides actually more transparency and accountability than if it's done in-house. And so that's something else that I wanted to really highlight. It's like, this is more transparent because the options are on the table for us to see and you to see and all of us to see. They're not being made within the department. And then, what didn't make the light of day, right? Like, this is actually, I think, a much more transparent and accountable process than doing it internally. And then somebody says, here's our advice, here's what we see, and then we, the people here, right, make the decisions about how to move forward. And I think that then that leads to my last point, is that this is about the future, right? This isn't about what has happened before or what is, we can think about what has happened before, but the process starts going forward. Nothing has been done yet. This is about what we're going to do and with a vision that we all see and about how to look to the future. And so, you know what? Let's move forward, like, with us and here, and not like, think about kind of the constraints that we've had before. And so, although I started when this conversation began as a skeptic of this situation, I have stopped and I have learned and I have listened and I have observed everything that this community has been doing and talking about planning and about strategy and strategic thinking over the last couple years. And so I feel confident through the interview process and landing on the firm that is being suggested that really this is actually exciting. And I hope that people look at it as an opportunity to really do something, that we are lucky that we are in Williamsburg at a time that we are going to be doing this. This isn't a burden, this is actually an opportunity. So we are actually fortunate that we're going to be the ones that are going to be able to put our shoulders to the wheel together and make something that we can then say, oh, look, yeah, we do have a plan. Like, thank you for asking. So thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin, for the oft-used word comprehensive report.
You're welcome.
I would also add concise and complete for someone who wasn't involved in the the process getting to this point. Like the Vice Mayor and Ms. Kernshear, I really appreciate how you packaged it all for us. I also thank the two of them for the days and time they spent going through all of the proposals. I understand from other members on the selection committee that it was a lot of work and a lot of comparison and questions asked to get the right company to provide a great outcome for the city. And I think that's one thing that goes to the future, is we should be looking at what we expect out of this plan and how that outcome can be a factor of the community support that is done to get to the end point. And I'm also not only looking forward to getting to that end point, but also the holistic approach that this plan and the consultant will take, covering all sectors, whether it be economics, connectivity, transportation, land use. I think it's very important that we have all of those pulled together in one plan, and a company like this drawing from expertise from their subcontractors, I think is the best to be able to do that. So thank you again.
Well, there's been so many wonderful things that have already been said, so I'll keep my remarks very short. But I really wanted to point out, I really appreciate the level of detail, but also just WRT's commitment to really producing something that's aligned. I believe you mentioned their kind of value statement of something that's aligned with the people, history, holistic history, and landscape of what makes Williamsburg. And I think that's something that's truly unique. And also, really bringing on the consultant to help enrich and enhance this process that is so essential to when we think about like that's already been said, not just Williamsburg now, but going forward and opening up the conversation of what we would like to see in the future. Really, and it is an investment, but it's an investment for our future. So thank you for all of your work and for the long days of interviews as well.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Ms. Griffin. Okay, what are the wishes of council?
So I move that City Council authorize the interim city manager to execute a contract with Wallace Robertson Todd, LLC, known as WRT, to assist the city with the development of the city's comprehensive plan.
Second.
Ms. McKay, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey.
Aye.
Mayor Pons.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Aye.
Ms. Kernshear.
Aye.
Okay. That leads us now to consideration and action regarding the water treatment chemical contract for the city of Williamsburg. Mr. Reed, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of City Council. Recently, we are approaching the end of our chemical contract year, and we issued an invitation for bid to solicit bids for firms to supply the chemicals used by the city's water treatment plant. We received multiple responses. Firms were selected on their ability to meet the terms of the IFB and provide the chemicals at the lowest cost. Of the firms selected, Univar Solutions was able to provide 3 of our chemicals. Sodium hypochlorite, which is chlorine, we project $70,000 per year. Caustic soda for $28,000 per year, and copper sulfate for $18,360 a year. Because of the 3 combined will exceed $100,000, we are here requesting council approval to move forward with the contract.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. And this is a normal purchase that we would make generally. I mean, these are supplies that we use all the time. And so what brings it to the table today, unusually, is that the price is over $100,000, and that requires council's action.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have no questions, and I certainly want to keep our water treated and keep, things happening. Okay. Is there a motion?
Yes, so I move that City Council authorize the interim city manager to execute the water treatment chemical contract with Univar Solutions for the term of June 1, 2026 through May 31, 2027, for a total of $116,520 per year.
Second.
Yeah, 2 seconds there, so Ms. McKay, please.
Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey.
Aye.
Mayor Pons.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Aye.
Ms. Kerntier.
Aye.
Okay, item E is consideration and action regarding the Tourism Promotion Contingency Fund request from the Let Freedom Ring Foundation to develop a virtual tour for the soft launch of the African American Heritage Trail. Ms. Skrabala.
Yes. Good afternoon again, Mayor Pons and members of City Council. I feel like it wouldn't be a City Council meeting without another Tourism Promotion Contingency Fund request, and that's a wonderful thing. So today's request is from the Let Freedom Ring Foundation for the development of a virtual tour for the soft launch of the African American Heritage Trail. I think we're all experts in the program at this point, but as always, this slide gives a little background on the intent of the program to drive overnight visitation to Williamsburg. I'll note that for the current fiscal year, there have been 4 TPCF awards, the Virginia Black Film Festival, the Virginia Docent Exchange, the Muscarelli Museum of Art for its Abstract Expressionists exhibit, and Opera in Williamsburg. The FY26 TPCF budget is $150,000, of which $53,610 has been awarded, leaving a remaining balance of $96,360. This slide shows a historical overview of the program, each year illustrating the TPCF budget, the dollar amount requested, and the dollar amount awarded. I will note that for FY26, the chart shows 5 applicants. However, an additional application has been received since this presentation was published, so there are actually 6 applications for this year. So today, Let Freedom Ring Foundation is requesting $28,000 from the TPCF to develop a virtual tour for the soft launch of the African American Heritage Trail. Because the trail will not be complete before its original deadline, this tour will serve as a marketing tool for the physical trail itself, and will specifically be used during 3 major events that will likely see an influx of visitors to the area. These events include Juneteenth, July 4th, and the 250th anniversary of the First Baptist Church. Visit Williamsburg is a key partner for this project and is contributing $40,000, which is more than half of the total budget of just over $72,000. As a part of this, the applicant is working with Visit Williamsburg to develop incentives, which will bring people back to Williamsburg once the trail is open to the public. The project includes on-site virtual augmentation that visitors may currently use for trail stops that are open. Additionally, the project offers access for visitors with mobility challenges, allowing these visitors the opportunity to virtually experience the trail, and will continue to be accessible after the trail is open. Hampton-based company J&F Alliance was selected to develop the project with an anticipated completion date of June 6th. They're working in tandem with JMI and the city to ensure the information aligns with the physical trails narrative. Staff recommend awarding the full funding request of $28,000 for the development of this virtual tour for the soft launch of the African American Heritage Trail. So here is a summary of this year's TPCF program. Again, just over $53,000 has been awarded to date, with just over $96,000 remaining in the fund. As a reminder, any unspent funds for the year will be rolled back into the overall tourism development fund. And just so you know, that 6 request that was not included here is well below the balance as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have, but as a warning, if it's a technical question, I will defer to the applicant who was present today.
Good. Thank you, Ms. Skrabala. Yeah, so it is unfortunate that we have to do a virtual tour and not be out touring it physically, as it hasn't been completed. But I see this as a great opportunity to promote it, to demonstrate what it is going to be when it's done. But then beyond the trail's completion, this will be a promotional opportunity, used as a promotional tool to help bring attention to it. So I'm fully supportive of it. Mr. Vice Mayor, anything?
Yeah, what a way to draw attention, and when we have these big events coming up, even though unfortunately the trail won't be finished, it's another opportunity to draw interest and promote the trail, not just for now, but into the future, so I fully support it.
Yes, agreed.
I support it as well, and I think it fits in extremely well with the intent of the TPCF and from the other awards that have been made this year and in previous years. We've all benefited from having that money available for organizations to apply for. So thank you.
Well, thank you for the information, and even though I guess the physical trail isn't finished, which would have been wonderful, especially for the summer, really excited about this virtual option, about really increasing the exposure to the trail. I really see this as a tool that even once the physical trail is done, that can really bring in people, and also maybe people can't make it to the physical trail due to certain limitations. I think that this is a great piece to have to our disposal as well, so thank you.
So I move that City Council award a Tourism Promotion Contingency Fund grant to the Let Freedom Ring Foundation in the amount of $28,000 for the development of a virtual tour to promote the African American Heritage Trail ahead of its completion.
Second.
Great, thank you. Ms. McKay?
Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey.
Aye.
Mayor Pons.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Aye.
Ms. Kernshire.
Aye.
Okay, item F is consideration of proposed resolution 26-06, the recommendation of City Council of the City of Williamsburg for appointment to the Board of Equalization. Shelton.
Mr. Liakis's term ends at the end of June. He is willing to serve another term. This is an appointment that's made by the Circuit Court. We generally make a recommendation to the Circuit Court, and we do that in the form of a resolution because it makes it a little bit easier for me to file the pleadings that are required. And so the staff recommendation is that City Council approve Resolution 2606.
He's willing to serve. I would support him continuing to serve, so I wouldn't make that recommendation.
So I move that City Council adopt Resolution 26-06.
Second.
Ms. McKay?
Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey.
Aye.
Mayor Pons.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Aye.
Ms. Kernshire.
Aye.
Okay, item G is consideration and appointments to boards and commissions. Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yes, I move that City Council appoint James Boswell to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a term expiring December 31, 2030, and Julie Denny to the Board of Zoning Appeals to fill an unexpired term expiring December 31, 2026.
Second.
Ms. McKay?
Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey.
Aye.
Mayor Pons.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Aye.
Ms. Kernshire.
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Vice Mayor, do we have any closed session?
We do.
All right.
I move to go into closed session pursuant to Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia for the purpose of discussing the award of a public contract involving the expenditure of public funds, including interviews of bidders or offers, and discussion of the terms of scope of such contract, where discussion in an open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body per subparagraph 29, and one personnel matter per subparagraph 1 concerning an appointment.
Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey. Mayor Pons.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Aye.
Ms. Kernshire.
Aye.
Okay, we will go into closed session and return for the certification of that. Thank you.
12 of the Code of Virginia.
Okay?
Ms. Williams?
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey? Aye. Mayor Pons?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent?
Aye.
Ms. Kernshire?
Aye.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second?
Dusty?
Ms. Williams?
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey? Aye.
Mayor Pons?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent?
Aye.
Ms. Kernshire?
Aye.